In 1992, Mia Nelson and Richard Johnson purchased 500 acres of land in Lowell, Oregon. With scenic views of Dexter Lake and the surrounding Cascade foothills, they call their property Lookout Point Ranch.
We didn't start out to be goat ranchers. We just started out trying to manage the property. Started with cattle. That didn't work out so well. We became overwhelmed with blackberries and then stumbled upon it, goats, and we've been doing that since 2002. And here we are.
They decided to raise Kiko meat goats. Kikos were developed in New Zealand from feral goats that had thrived and reproduced on their own.
So they bred them with dairy goats and other goats to try to come up with a better meat goat. And when they selected, they did this by putting a lot of goats out there and seeing who came back with meat goats, kids that had gained weight and were doing well. And so they used a kind of a natural selection process, and we're doing much the same here.
For Mia and Richard, the goal is to produce breeding stock that is acclimated to the harsh, natural conditions on the ranch.
And we try to put them out there and let them show us which ones are the best able to adapt to the conditions that exist on our ranch.
Well, the low management is really the key to it all, because to make money in farming, it's not about how much you sell the product for, it's about the difference between what you sold the product for and what it cost you to produce. And where this goat excels is on the saving costs end of it. They save us money on not needing to have barns. We can just run them outside. We don't have any barns at all. And that's a huge cost savings. And we save money on feed. We don't feed them. They are able to get by on just the native vegetation and reproduce on that. That's the other thing. Some goats might survive on native vegetation, but they won't produce 2 kids every year on that without supplemental feeding. So this goat does that. They don't need help with kidding. They don't need to have their feet trimmed. We don't worm them at all anymore. We don't even give them vaccinations. And we used to do all of those things because we couldn't quite believe in the beginning that it would be okay to not do that. But we have discovered that this goat does well without pretty much the only things that we do are record keeping and providing them with mineral and protection from predators. That's it.
Springtime is busy on the ranch. This is when the does have their kids. Richard keeps a close eye on all the mothers, so he can be ready to tag the newborns. Tagging is critical to good record keeping. Richard finds a doe and her newborn kids sitting on the side of a hill. These kids are fresh and have not been tagged. He's careful in his approach. If he scares the mother away, she may lose track of her kids. The objective here is to weigh the kids, tag them, and give the doe a score on her mothering ability.
By tomorrow, they'll be very difficult to catch. And in a week, they'll certainly be able to outrun me, or less than a week. There might have been a time when I could run down a week-old kid, but if I want to do something the next day, I don't do that. So she's done. She got a score of 4 on mothering. She's pushing a 5. I would have given her a 5 if she had had the kids in shelter, which she doesn't need today, so that's one of the ambiguous parts of it. If it was a rainy day, this would be a bad place. It's not, but I'd still rather see her in a little more sheltered place. But a 4 is a good score.
Of course, the ultimate score is, did the kids survive or not? That's an automatic fail if they don't, but there's all gradations of poor mothering, good mothering, and then we score heavily for udder characteristics, and we cull hard for goats that don't have good udders, because a bad udder can't be nursed by a kid, and that means management problems. So we have to spend quite a bit of time on the record keeping. But if we didn't do that, we would sort of be just shooting in the dark and not knowing what we have. I see sort of an inevitable shift in agriculture that is bound to happen eventually just from sheer economics, and that is that we are going to get away from having livestock that need to be fed processed grain and hay that was grown on land that we could be using to grow food for people.
Well, it started out as just something that needed to be done. Once we decided that we wanted to be on this piece of land, much of what we've done has been related to what needed to happen for us to do that. And so that's why I had experience with livestock. I grew up on a farm, got away from it, didn't think I would ever get back to it. But when there came to be a reason to do it, well, we need livestock here. Well, I knew something about that.
And I think there's a real opportunity in Oregon. There's so much land out there. You just drive around with an eye towards, does that look like goat food? And you find that everywhere there's all of this marginal land that isn't being used for anything, that's covered with blackberries and is steep. You could never grow food on it. And that's like the new frontier of agriculture, I think. And it's exciting for me to be a part of trying to build a base of genetics, a kind of livestock that people will be able to take into those areas profitably. Because we don't have that yet in Oregon, an animal that can convert that kind of low quality feed on low quality ground into human food. And this goat can do that.
For more information, visit lookoutpointranch.com. For more information about living culture, visit our website at livingcultureonline.com.